One batch, two batch, penny and dime. What's up, Blasianeers and Blasianettes? Welcome to my review for Marvel's The Punisher Season 1. And this is going to be spoiler free, so don't worry, I'm not going to mess it up for you. Now, when the show starts, for me at least, I was thrown off of where Frank is when the show starts. I'm like, oh, I was totally not expecting that. I mean, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's just not something I was really preparing myself for. I'm like, oh, okay, and then from where that starts, and then from where it goes after that, I mean, it pays off. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool, but it was different. It was different, and as I was hoping for, I was hoping that there were not going to be any major Avenger mentions and Defender mentions, like where they talk about, like, let's say Iron Man or Daredevil or whatever. They don't mention any of those characters in the show. I mean, like, I just wanted to feel like we were locked into Frank Castle's world, like where he's basically outside of all of that super powered, shenanigans going on, and that's what they do in the show. I mean, they stay as far away from that as possible, and I really did enjoy that. And I mean, they do have reminders that with that being said, that Frank Castle is still indeed a part of that universe. I mean, for Karen Page, appears in the show, so that's like, a good example of like the little reminders of that that he is indeed a part of that universe. I mean, like, and then we're introduced to this character in Daredevil season 2. I mean, they do mention a couple things that happen in that show without mentioning Daredevil, and I found that pretty interesting. I'm like, how are they gonna do that? And then I'm like, oh, I'm really impressed. I was almost not expecting them not to mention any of that, but I was impressed that they really didn't, and I feel like there's a difference between, like how the Punisher is in his own show and then how he was in Daredevil. I feel like in Daredevil he was more like a killer shark, and more like we saw him from the point of view of others, where he's this psychopath and whatnot. And then from here, we get to really experience him as Frank Castle, like we are inside his head. I mean, we did get a little bit of that in Daredevil, but we get a lot more of that in this show. Like where we see more layers to the character, and there are some nitpicks that I have with the show. I mean, like, they're not really strong nitpicks, but there's a point where Frank visits a family, from a little bit, and he has a totally different look when he first starts to interact with them. I mean, that's okay because they don't recognize him. Like, he's not. They don't look at him and think that's the Punisher. He's like unrecognizable. But when he goes back to the that look, with the buzz cut and clean shaved look, he, even Frank doesn't think to himself what if they recognize me? He doesn't think that. And then when they see him again and he goes to see them, where he interacts with them, I'm like the mom doesn't even freak out and look like, oh my, holy shit, it's the Punisher. I mean, like, I'm like, does she not watch the news or read the newspapers? Like, it's the Punisher. I mean, like, she looks at him and she is, going along with, like, okay, this is a totally different person. I mean, I didn't hate it, but it tickled me. I mean, it just really tickled me. And then, and another nitpick of mine is like, okay, this is definitely a legit nitpick, where there's a character that's in the show, and he's pretty unstable, and it seems like I felt like he kind of fillered, the show a little bit for me, like in a few episodes, and I'm like, I could have done fine without this character. I mean, I didn't really care for him as much as I should, but I mean, I feel like he wasn't necessary. They didn't need to have him in there. That's just me. And there's not as much action in the show as you would be led to, as you would be led to believe that there is. I mean, like how you see in the trailers and stuff. I mean, there is action-packed episodes, but overall, it doesn't rely on the action. It relies more on the character development and figuring out, like what happened in Frank Castle's past and how it comes into the present and how does he deal with it. And I'm totally cool with that. But it was, I mean, like it would have been more fun to see him, like see him be more in action, you know what I mean? But I mean, he is indeed being smart about how to handle this situation. I mean, like it's more him strategizing than executing, than I guess mindless execution. But I mean, I dare say that like the way they're going about it, the way like in this show, it's way better than how he strategized, like his plan in the 2004 movie. I think it's way better than what he did in that movie. And but still, I mean, like I feel like he had a bigger body count in Daredevil than he did in this show. I could be wrong. I may have to watch it again and sort of count how many people he kills. And I'm like, okay, it's even. I could be wrong, but at this point in time, right now, it felt like he killed more people in Daredevil. That's how it felt. And but yeah, I mean, like when he rocks the skull, he does not wear it as much as you would expect. But when it gets to that episode, like where he does wear the skull and he's just ripping people up with his guns and everything, I'm just like, yes. I mean, that was one of my favorite episodes of the show. Man. But but yeah, in the end, Jon Bernthal, he brought this A game into the show like he did in Daredevil. I mean, he was no exception in his show. Where they gave him to work with, he nailed it. I mean, he was fantastic. He is the best Punisher, and he is probably the scariest Punisher. I mean, he nearly gave me nightmares in Daredevil. I'm like, if I were, making wrong decisions and I crossed paths with that Punisher, I would be fucking shit covered, literally. But I mean, yeah, I mean, like it could have, even though I would have liked a little bit more action, but it was still a fantastic experience, and I loved, like being locked into Frank Castle's world, and yeah, I mean, I wanted more of it. Like when the show was over, I'm like, come on, I want more. Damn it, I want more. But yeah, with that all being said, this gets 4 chair spins out of 5. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4 epic chair spins. So feel free to tell me what you thought of the show if you're all caught up. I would say that you don't necessarily have to watch The Defenders before you watch this show. They don't mention anything that happened in The Defenders or anything. Well, the only thing they mention a little bit is what happened in Daredevil Season 2 in regards with Frank Castle. Like, as far as everything else, nah, not really. It focuses more on Frank. And I love that they're doing that. So, and hopefully they keep it that way. And yeah, I mean, watch the damn show. So if you enjoyed my review on Punisher Season 1, make sure you thumb up the video, make sure you click subscribe if you're new to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, y'all.